You know, this game is good and all, but I think we can do a lot more better.
3 days later.
Yeah, that's more like it. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So today I am going to be making Google's Dino Run, or Google's Dinosaur game as people call it, in RTX. I've been practicing it Unity a lot, so yeah, enjoy the video. Alright, so as many games start, we start with a little bean, which is going to become our dinosaur, a little bit at a time. Alright, so let's start a bit of the boring stuff, also known as coding. You know what, this might be a bit too much boring, so let's just skip that. And now our bean can run and jump. Wait, jump. Okay, maybe not. Another small placeholder, and now we have ourselves an obstacle, which is going to be a cactus later on, as in the Google's Dinosaur game. Alright, so after that was done, I made a bit bigger area so I could run around and added a few more obstacles. By few more, I mean there's a total of 2 obstacles now. I also added a placeholder, which is going to become the pterodactyl later on, which is just a red sphere right now. Alright, so if the player hits the pterodactyl, the time... Alright, after I was done with that, I decided to make altering terrains rather than the Google Dinosaurs game day and night, because night doesn't actually look that good in RTX. I mean, I have not been able to make it look that good because you need a lot more lights and RTX lags a lot as is, so I can just imagine how multiple unbaked lights are gonna do. So I decided to go with a few more terrains. The first one's the yellowish one is going to be the desert, where cactuses are cacti are usually from. The next one I created was this brown one, which is gonna be a placeholder for a forest scene, which I would make later on with props. And the next one, this grayish one, is going to be a beach scene. The dino's going places, you know. It's gonna be a beach scene that I'm also gonna... This is just a placeholder. I'm gonna expand upon it later on. After that, a bit more of the boring stuff, I mean coding. And I made it so that the terrain keeps on spawning as the player keeps on moving forward. I'm not gonna get into the logic of things, but yeah, it was fairly hard to create. I also made it, I don't want to destroy my computer's RAM, so I also made it so that if the player gets a bit far away from the terrain or the block terrain, let's keep on calling it terrain. If the player gets a bit far away from the terrain disappears, automatically destroys itself. And I know creating and destroying takes up a lot of memory as well and can cause lag, but that's the least of my concerns. I don't want to have a limited world space, and this is my best option. Alright, so the next thing I did was to get an HDRI, which stands for High Dynamic Range Image, for the lighting. This website called Polyheaven is my favorite website to get HDRIs from, so I decided to go with the sunflower one. But I didn't like it, so I decided to change it with this hilly scene, which is called the Cape Hills, I think. I decided to go with this one because the lighting is fairly controllable, as the sun is just on the horizon and you can control it a lot better on this one. Alright, so after all that was done, now we need to work on the good stuff and remove all the placeholders. So we're basically gonna create a good looking terrain with a few free 3D models and Unity Asset Store assets that I found. So I just quickly whipped up this desert scene, added a terrain back, and added a few cactus and props, and it ended up looking good. While I was there, I also created the let's say the props for the cacti that spawn on the road for the dino. So that was also done. And a few variation of the cacti never hurt no one, so everything ended up looking good. So now let's go ahead and create the other two as well. I'm not gonna go in much depth, but for the forest scene, I went ahead and used the Unity Book of the Dead asset. I think it is deprecated right now. Not right now. As of now, it has been deprecated by Unity, but I was one of the lucky few who was able to download it back when it was still available. So I had it, so I'm gonna use it because it really looks good with the high HDRP, high HD rendering pipeline. So I basically got a few rocks and everything from the Book of the Dead and created this good looking scene. It's my favorite scene out of all three. And I also got a few free assets and decals from Unity Asset Store and a few rocks as well. And whipped up this beach scene. The water shader I created myself using a PBR. Yeah, it was fairly troublesome thing, so I'm not gonna go much into it. After that was done, the terrain ends up looking really good. So next thing we have to do is create the dinosaur. The dino, as in the Google Dino run. So first thing I did was download this good looking dinosaur model, which is unfortunately not a CC0 model. So I will not be able to provide you guys this game because I don't own this dinosaur model. It's only available for personal use. Either way, I downloaded it from TurboSquid. It really looks good, so I hopped into Blender and started adding a lot of bones. Now, it was not a lot, it was the bare minimum for bones that were needed to make it work. I added all the bones, and I also had to paint in the weights because the automatic weights of Blender did not end up serving me well. They ended up moving like the wrong parts. So after I was done with that, now we can get to the fun part. Let's start animating. Alright, so for the animation part, we will basically be creating the 3 animation, the run animation, the jump animation, and the duck animation. Also, we are going to create the pterodactyl flapping animations, basically all the animations that we need from the original Google's game. So I started creating the run animation, the run cycle, running in the same place with the dino. Animating is a fairly tedious process, so I realized watching this is not going to be that fun, so let's just skip this. Alright, so here's the end result. I created 3 cycles, one for running, jumping, and crouching each, and implemented them all into the game using Unity's animator, and here it is. Here's the game so far. Also, while I was there, I also imported the pterodactyl design from TurboSquid, same place where I downloaded my dinosaur model from. Same case applies with this one as well. It's also personal use only. So I downloaded it and rigged it and animated it with a flapping animation. So basically now we are done. Everything is added. The terrains look good, the dinosaurs animated and look good, the pterodactyls animated and look good. Now a bit more cleanup and we'll be done with our base game. So by cleanup, I mean I added a bit more post-processing to make the game look good. I added a few sound effects so that there's sound when the dinosaur runs and jumps. And I added a few background music with scales and intensity. You know, old music. Dinosaurs are old, bad logic, but still works. The intensity gains up. Also, the dinosaur, I also made it so that the dinosaur speed also increases as the score increases. It starts at the base speed of 10 and goes up to a speed of 15, which can get a fair bit difficult to control, if I say so. Alright, now all that was done, let's get to the good part. Let's add the RTX. So it's just one click. Yeah, we're done. Okay, no, in all fairness, I'm just kidding. It was a fair bit tedious. Had to enable DirectX 12 and all that, and add a few more RTX post-processing stuff and volume stuff and tweak them a bit, and here we are. Here's the end product. Alright, if you are not blind, you probably noticed that the game lagged a lot. Yeah, that's the problem with RTX and the dynamic stuff. Here, I was not able to create the environment static because I would not be able to make the light map for all of them because the terrains would always be generated in a different space in the world. So that's the problem that I was facing, and the best way I found was to not make them static, make them dynamic and use light probes. But that ended up doing is putting a lot of weight, and yeah, the game became fairly intensive and it lagged a lot. But still, it is playable in its non-RTX form. In its RTX form also it was playable. As you can see, I reached a fairly high score with it. And yeah, that's the end product. Here the RTX did not actually end up looking that good. Here's a small project that I whipped up in like 5 minutes. This was my first initial RTX practice, I believe. It's a foggy forest area. Basically use the Book of the Dead assets here as well, and use a few decals to make puddles, even though it's not visible from this angle. And yeah, it actually looks a lot better. But I think the problem here was it was dynamic, and doing all the calculations is fairly buggy. So I think the other games that I'm going to do in the future, I'm going to keep this in mind while developing them. So yeah, that was it. The end products there. Unfortunately, I'll not be able to let you guys play because I do not own two of the assets, the Dinosaur and the Pterodactyl, those which are the main two. But yeah, that's it, I guess. That's the game. If you liked it, please do consider leaving a like, and if you are not already subscribed, please do consider subscribing. Helps me out a lot. The next project that I've already started working on is another RTX project. It's gonna be Angry Birds in RTX. The modeling stuff is kinda already getting to my head. So we'll see when we get there, I guess. Next video out in maybe a month. So as always, thank you for watching. If you liked it, please consider leaving a like. And if you want to see more, please consider subscribing. As always, thank you for watching and goodbye.